Hey everybody, welcome back to homerecordingmadeeasy.com, learningtomix.com, and here on my YouTube channel. And this time out, we're going to take a look at the new Fat channel by Presonus for Studio One. And specifically, we're going to take a look at the LA-2A style compressor called the Tube Compressor by Presonus. We're going to compare that on a couple of some audio tracks, on a bass track, on a vocal track, and then we're going to compare it to its counterparts of the Universal Audio version of this same plugin, as well as the Waves LA-2A, just so you can hear the differences and see how it kind of stacks up. But before we get to that, if you like what you see in this video, hit that subscribe button below. Also, go out to facebook.com/homerecordingmadeeasy and follow me there. And for more tips, tricks, concepts, and training around all aspects of recording, mixing, and mastering, be sure to go to homerecordingmadeeasy.com and check out all my free content as well as my paid training courses. They will absolutely help you make better music in your home studio, I promise. And last but certainly not least, if you really want to go down deep and do a deep dive into mixing and get the best, high quality, most comprehensive training around mixing so you can mix better productions in your home studio, head out to learningtomix.com. Self-explanatory, 30-day money-back guarantee, super affordable. Follow me there, learningtomix.com. Now let's head on into Studio One and let's take a look at this Tube Comp by Presonus. Now this is part of the new Fat channel, I guess maybe 6 months ago new, depending on when you're watching this video. It happens to be October 2017. This is their first crack. Presonus is getting into modeling some of these vintage style analog plugin emulations, which I think is fantastic. It's if you have Studio One Professional, this is a stock plugin called the Fat Channel XT, and the Fat Channel XT has a few different compressors. It has its standard stock compressor here that we all know and love, and then it also has a tube compressor, which we're going to look at today, and then it also has the FET style compressor, the 1176-ish style. We're going to look at that in another video. This time out, we're going to take a look at the LA-2A style because this is a super easy compressor to use. It's one of the most famous pieces of hardware, the LA-2A. It sounds wonderful on a lot of different things, but primarily I tend to use it a lot on bass guitar and vocals. So we're going to take a look at some sound examples. And then we're going to compare it to its counterpart, the Universal Audio LA-2A, and then also the CLA-2A, the Chris Lord Alge version of this by Waves. Now, the first thing to notice before or when you listen to the sound, the first thing you want to recognize here is that all these hardware compressors or hardware pieces of gear in general are all going to sound different from each other. Meaning that if I took an LA-2A, an actual piece of hardware, and I put 3 LA-2As on a bench and we A/B them side by side, they all are going to have slightly tonal differences. That's the way analog hardware is. So sometimes you get one that may sound better, quote unquote, better to your ears than another, or they'll just sound a little bit different. So the same happens with plugins, because when these companies emulate these analog style plugins, they're using a very specific piece of gear. So the one that Presonus might have gone ahead and modeled is going to be a different unit than the Universal Audio crew, and the different unit then the Waves guys that did an actual LA-2A from Chris Lord Alge's personal collection. So that is going to sound inherently just a tiny bit different. So keep that in mind. They're not going to sound exact. So it's not better or worse. It's just different. So let's look at the controls here. Simple compressor to use. If you've never used an LA-2A style compressor, it's super simple. You have really 2 main knobs. You have a gain knob here on the left-hand side, which is a makeup gain knob, and you have a peak reduction. The more peak reduction, the more compression you're going to get, the lower the volume is going to tend to drop. You make it up with some makeup gain. We have this can be in compressor mode or in limiting mode. Typically, I use it in compressor mode, which is the most most common. We have an on and off switch up here at the top left-hand corner. And then what's something that's specific to this unit, it isn't on the hardware unit, is a key filter where you can actually listen into specific frequencies that it's compressing, which we're not really going to use for this example because the other 2 units don't have this. This is specific to the Presonus unit, which is kind of cool. Okay, so first up, I got this on a bass guitar. And again, you may want to turn up your monitors a little bit. I don't want to clip the video here. I'm going to turn up the bass a little bit, but if you want it to be a little more audible, turn up your volume a little bit. Now, other thing, when we're listening to this on especially on a bass guitar, if you're watching this video and listening to this on earbuds or on an iPad or a smartphone, you're probably not going to hear the differences at all. You really want to listen to this example on a good set of studio cans or a good set of studio monitors, especially with low frequencies. So We're going to take this out of bypass mode. Let me make sure the other two are bypassed. Yes, they are. We're going to take this out of bypass mode here, and we're just going to go ahead and we're going to listen to what it does on bass. I'm going to turn up the peak reduction to get around 5 to 7 dB of compression, and then I'm going to turn up the makeup gain to make up for it. So here we go. Okay, so we got about 5 to 7 dB, depending on how hard they're picking the notes. This bass is kind of dynamic, so it's going to spike around a little bit. And then we're going to just turn it on and off and toggle on and off. Now, what you want to listen for bass is a couple of things. You want to listen for the very low end of the bass. You want that should get a little fatter, a little bit rounder, and the notes ought to sustain a little bit more, okay? That's what we're kind of listening for. What's great about the LA-2A style is it's a tube-based compressor, which means that it's going to have a more warm sound on the top end. It's going to have a nice, warm, thick, round sound on the bottom. That's what these compressors are really well known for. It'll take something that maybe sounds a little harsh or a little spiky, especially on vocals, and it will smooth it out a little bit and give it a little bit more of a creamy sound. That's what the tubes will do, okay? So here we go. We're going to start with it off, and we're just going to let this loop play, and I'm going to toggle it on and off and see if you can listen for the differences. Again, listen for the sustain and the bottom end. Okay, so the other thing that you should hear here is as these notes, especially when they get back to the one, where it's really boom, 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 it doesn't poke through as much. This does a really good job of kind of squashing that transient a little bit, where it doesn't pump and breathe and doesn't sound compressed. It sounds very natural. There's not a ton of color coming from this. It's really, really subtle, actually, which can be good or a bad thing depending on what you're going for. It does a really nice job of grabbing that transient and kind of evening out that performance and brings a little bit of thickness in the bottom end, but it's not very audible from the on and off position, as you'll hear. Let's try it again. You can really hear how it squashes that transient in a very musical way. Okay, so it also gives it a little bit more sustain when those notes kind of ring out. Again, it's subtle, but it really tightens up that performance quite nice. It actually sounds really good. Now let's put this in bypass mode and let's do the same passage. We'll kind of dial in the same amount of compression on the LA-2A by Universal Audio. Now again, the LA-2A had a few different models. In the Universal Audio collection, you get the LA-2, which is the first kind of revision of the LA-2A style compressor, which has a much slower attack. You have the gray face here, which is more of a medium style attack, and then you have the silver face, which is kind of a faster attack. Which one that Presonus modeled is impossible for me to tell. The more popular one that you tend to see in studios and hardware form is typically this one here. Again, so I'm going to go ahead, I'm going to dial in about the same amount of compression, and then we're going to listen to see what this sounds like. just level match this. Okay, so now on the universal audio version, I level matched it pretty much as best I could, but it's a lot more audible, the difference between the on and off position. On the universal audio, what I tend to hear here, hopefully it comes across on YouTube after they compress this video, we'll see, but just take my word for it. You hear the bottom end get a little bit thicker sounding. It's a little bit more rounder. It's a lot more obvious than it is on the Presonus on the tube comp here, tube compressor here, okay? The other thing I noticed is look where the peak reduction knob is up on the universal audio version as opposed to the universal, on the Presonus version as opposed to the universal audio version. You tend to have to turn up the peak reduction quite a bit. Now, again, the unit that they physically modeled, the Presonus crew, who knows which one they modeled, that just may be reflective to that hardware unit. So just pointing that out. Every unit's a little different, as I said. But this tends to have a little bit more of a fatter bottom, and it tends to tighten up a little bit more. It's a little bit more musical, has a little bit more depth, excuse me, than this version here, okay? Let's listen to this again. I'll start with it off and turn it on. Excuse me. So this definitely has a more obvious audible difference. Now let's compare that. Let's bypass this. Let's look at the LA-2A by Waves. This is the Chris Lord Algae plugin here. And let's do the same thing. Let's get a little more gain reduction here. Okay, so this one too gets a little bit fatter on the bottom. It's not as obvious as the universal audio, lacks a little bit of depth compared to the universal audio to my ears. Sounds a little bit more similar to the Presonus version. So now, last but certainly not least, let's go ahead and let's just quickly compare. Let me pin this, all three together. We'll just go one through the other so you can hear the difference. Again, this is not a dig on any one of these plugins to say one's better than another. This is just to show you the differences, to see how the stock plugin from Universal Audio kind of stacks up. The stock plugin from Presonus kind of stacks up to the competitors, which the main competitors in this case are these other two here. So let's start with the Presonus, and I'll turn them off and I'll just flip around, then we'll see what we got. Here we go. Okay, so they all have a very similar sound to them, and they should, right? They're modeling the same piece of hardware, but they have some subtle differences. Again, I think that the Presonus plugin is a really, really great plugin. I mean, it does a really respectable job in modeling an LA-2A style compressor. Now, that's on bass. Let's also take a listen to this on maybe a vocal track to see what the differences might be there. So if we were to start here with the Presonus unit, I think I have this in. Okay, and we're going to do the same thing. Let's go ahead and let's see if we can dial in a little compression here. and see how it sits on a vocal now.
Let you go, I would never let you go, but this time I gotta go. I would never let you go, baby. I would never let you go. I would never let you go. I would never let you go. But this time I gotta go.
Okay, so instantly what I hear there on a vocal, it's very obvious where you have the word go. The G really pops through the mix and gets a little spiky on the ears. This does, again, a great job of taming that transient and making it sound musical and not letting it sound like it's compressed, especially when you put this in a full mix. You would never know there was a compressor on that. It really does a really great job of that. So the word go and the word let you go, is obvious. Also, it also tends to pull the vocal a little more forward to you. It seems to sit a little bit back, and when you turn on the compressor, it feels like the vocal moves a little closer to the listener, which is what it's going to do. Okay, so that's the Presonus unit. Now let's do the same thing with the Universal Audio unit. And again, we're doing about 5-7 dB of compression. So here we go.
I would never let you go. I would never let you go. But this time I gotta go. I would never let you go, baby. I would never let you go. I would never let you go. I would never let you go. But this time I gotta go.
Okay, so just like the Presonus unit, it clamps down on that transient really nice, doesn't sound compressed, sounds very musical. It tends to be a little bit more open, airy on the upper frequencies there. It tends to give a little more air to the vocal, this one, as compared to the other one. But again, the differences are very subtle, but it's very musical. You can see on the heaviest words, we're compressing almost 10 dB, a little over 10 dB of compression, and it doesn't sound squished, which is great. Now let's do the same thing on the CLA version as well, and let's see what we have there.
I would never let you go. I would never let you go. But this time I gotta go. I would never let you go, baby. I would never let go. I would never let you go, baby. I would never let you go. I would never let you go. I would never let you go. But this time I gotta go.
So again, clamps down on those transients, really nice, sounds very musical. Doesn't sound as airy to me on this as opposed to Universal Audio, but it's very similar. So now let's do the same thing we did on the last example. Let's go ahead and let's open these three up and let's just cycle between them quickly and let's just see what the differences are side by side, and then we'll wrap up this video. So here we go. Let's get this all up in here. Let's get these so they're on the screen so you can all see them. I'll just cycle between the three. We will start with the one on the left here, which is the Presonus unit. We'll go from Presonus to CLA to Universal Audio. Here we go.
I would never let you go. I would never let you go. But this time I gotta go. I would never let you go, baby. I would never let you go. I would never let you go. I would never let you go. But this time I gotta go. I would never let you go. I would never let you go. But this time I gotta go. I would never let you go, baby. I would never let you go. I would never let you go. I would never let you go. But this time I gotta go.
Okay, there you go. So once again, very similar sounding to each other as it should be, and it is a very musical sounding plugin. So I think Presonus did a really nice job with this tube comp, this LA-2A style as part of the Fat channel. Again, if you have Studio One Professional, this is a stock plugin. This is also part of the Studio Live Series 3 mixers as well, where you can use this in a live situation recording, where you can use this plugin as well as the 1176, which we'll take a look at in another video. But compared to the Waves and Universal Audio, very similar. Which one is better? Well, that's for you to decide which one is better. I don't think there's anything wrong with any one of the three of them. They just all have subtle differences. And if you don't have an LA-2A style compressor in your collection, you do now. If you're a Studio One user, you have it here. But if you're using a different DAW and you're watching this video, you want to have an LA-2A style compressor in your plugin collection, because they sound great on just about anything. But as you can hear on the bass and on the vocal tracks we did, it really clamps down on those transients and smooths out that performance. It gives a nice airy feel and a nice warmth without getting muddy, and it doesn't sound compressed. It's very musical, and that's the key and some of the features to the LA-2A style compressor. So I hope you found this video helpful. Again, please hit that subscribe button below. Share this video on Facebook. Pass it around. It really does help me out. And the more you guys can help me, the more free content I can continue to give you here on YouTube. And also go back to homerecordingmadeeasy.com for all your training needs in your home studio. We'll be doing more and more videos and gear demos, etc., etc. And then last, go over to learningtomix.com. Check out the video we have over there. It tells you all about learningtomix.com. We have a wonderful community of people that's growing by the day, and you can get in on all kinds of good stuff. We're giving away lots of free plugins. We have mixing contests. We do a lot of interaction with our members. It's just a wonderful community of like-minded individuals who want to get better at the craft of mixing. Learningtomix.com. You can't beat it. It's awesome. Check it out. 30-day money-back guarantee. And until the next video, this has been David Vignola with Home Recording Made Easy and learningtomix.com, and I will see you in the next video. Take care, guys.